Hello, everybody. Welcome to another weekly episode here of the YYC Real Estate Show. Excited to have our guest today, Randy McCord. Thank you very much for coming on, Randy. Appreciate having you here.
Thanks, Shiraz.
Sebastian's here with us as well.
Thank you.
So, normally, as you know, I always like to introduce the guests and their background and start to ask questions, but Randy has a diverse background, so I'll let Randy introduce himself here briefly before we go into the questions. So go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, thanks, Shiraz. Well, my name's Randy McCord. I have a life insurance brokerage, actually, called National Best Financial Network, and we're an independent brokerage based right here in Calgary, and I've been licensed for about 15 years in the financial services sector. But I think the reason I'm here today is that I've been an investor in real estate all my life. I actually teach a course called Investing in Real Estate for the Chinook Learning Center, the Calgary Board of Education. So, yeah, I've got a pretty diverse background, and I'm sure that's why you decided to have me on.
Yes. I was really excited to get to know more about you as we had met a few times at our monthly meetups. But as I got to know you, I was like, this would be great to have these questions answered live and be able to share your experiences and journey through real estate and investing in general in town. So I'll start by, I know and I've read, so let's first talk about this. Randy has written the 8-Step Dream Business Plan, and this is available.
Oh, it's on Amazon. Yeah, you can pick it up on Amazon, and it's all it is it's sort of a personalized plan if you're going to try to go into business for yourself.
Okay.
I really had the intention of writing it for the advisors at National Best. Because when you get into the business, you have to kind of have a vision of where you want to go. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of challenges to being self-employed. And so the book sort of addresses how you can overcome some of those challenges and make sure you've kind of got this plan in the back of your mind, sort of all the way from a 30,000 foot kind of viewpoint right down to the nitty-gritty of what you're going to do every single day to make your business work. So that's kind of how the book's set up. It's
okay. And a lot of time when I read these kind of books, they're country specific. A lot of them are specific to the U.S. Is this one more specific to Canada, would you say?
Yeah, a little bit, because I talk a little bit about tax law and about certain aspects of the Canadian industry we are in. It's applicable to just about any entrepreneur who's starting out. You could use the basic plan, but again, I was addressing people in my industry, so it relates a lot more to the service industry as opposed to, let's say, you started a manufacturing company. I don't really address too many things with regard to inventory and warehousing and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a way to envision your business so that you get a long-term view, but you get all of the detail you need to get things done, in the short term. And I actually wrote it down on a napkin. Like I wrote down the 8 points because it was just 8 points. That's where the 8 chapters comes from.
Yeah, the 8-step. Yeah.
And we were in an executive meeting, and I wrote it down on a scrap of paper, right? Because the leadership, we were talking about how can we get our advisors more engaged? How do we get them to understand that this is a business and they need to have a plan and they need to work through things? Mm-hmm. And as I thought about that, I thought, well, here are the things that they should consider. And exactly the order and exactly what I wrote down is what's in the book as far as the chapters go, because it just occurred to me. It's like it just came to me, and it started out just as a PowerPoint for our advisors, and then one of my colleagues said, "Geez, Randy, you're the writer. Why don't you write a book?" And so I went, "Well, okay, sounds cool."
Hey, all the greatest inventions, ideas, books, plans. I'll start with just a discussion, a round of golf, a meeting, and you jot ideas on a napkin. So that's amazing. I'm really happy to hear that, and I look forward to reading this myself. And I was just amazed. You walked in with this book, and I'm just happy for you. How long ago did you publish this?
I published it just before COVID.
Okay.
So, just before 2019? Yeah, late 2019, early 2020. So I was going to kind of use it to do some speaking engagements.
Yeah.
That didn't quite work out.
So I want to start from the beginning, as I do with all my guests. So I'm going to take us down memory lane here. So walk me through who Randy is. Were you born in Calgary, raised here, and what brought you and made you want to become financial? Because what's your title? What would I say your title
Well,
would be?
in our company, I'm an executive director. That's just the title we have in the company. But I'm a life insurance advisor. That's
Awesome.
what I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
life insurance advisor. So have you always been in Calgary?
I was born and raised in Calgary. Yeah,
Nice.
all my life. I love it here.
Yeah, I love it here too, as we know, both of us do. There's a lot of points. We always ask our guests. Well, I'll actually just ask right now and get it over with. We always ask our guests 2 questions about YYC specifically. If there's one thing you could change, what would it be? And what's the one thing you love the most about Calgary?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the thing I love the most about Calgary is the fact that you can turn one way and you can see prairie and farmland and as far as the eye can see. You turn the other way and you see these majestic mountains and this opportunity to be able to experience those kinds of natural wonders. I grew up on the prairie, but we would holiday in the mountains every summer, right?
It's an hour and a half away.
It's an hour and a half away, right? And you learn how to ski, and you learn that winter's not so bad, right?
Yeah.
It's that's, I think, probably that's the most sort of physical thing. But the thing I love about Calgary is traditionally, as I grew up, if you shook hands with somebody on something, it might as well be a written contract.
Right.
Calgarians are true to their word. Handshake deals are like gold.
Still happens today.
It still happens today. I think it's a tradition. I think that's why we're such an energetic city, such a friendly city, and a good business city.
And this one of the sunniest cities in the world.
And one of the sunniest cities in the world. Even though it's 30 below, at least it's sunny out.
Hey, we drive in our cars and it feels nice, the sun hitting you, even though you open your window, it's minus 30. But
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, so no, I appreciate that. And if there's one thing you could change, what would it be?
Oh, if there's one thing I could change, I would have to say my problem is, of course, I've been here a long, long time. And so the pace of change here is getting quite drastic. And I think what I'd like to see is more public input into municipal decision making. I find that I think the city is the city planners, the civic planners, the policymakers at City Hall are kind of getting a little, as much as they try to have, constituent engagement. I think a lot of it's just for show. I would like to see more plebiscites, especially on large issues that affect all Calgarians. A good example is this blanket rezoning.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I would like to see that as a plebiscite, not as just a decision made by the city planners and council, because gee whiz, they can get some federal money. Do you know what I mean?
Right, because they may say that, on the 22nd is the announcement and all the voting has taken place, but there was interim meetings on it, ward specific. And then I made a post the other day because there was some not physical fights, but it got tense at the.
Well, and the thing is the city, strangely enough, what I will say is that we had to fight them with regard to the berm. I live in Bowness. My favorite community, best community in Calgary.
Yeah, I love it too. I went to Montgomery Junior High. It doesn't exist anymore.
I went to Haddon Road, not Haddon Road, but the elementary school that was attached.
Right.
This is many years ago.
Yeah.
Many years ago. And then we moved down south to Haysboro, so I ended up going to Haddon Road Elementary.
Okay.
But anyway, that aside, yeah, the city decided after the floods in 2013 that they should build a big berm in Bowness. Well, those of us who live on the river, a lot of people don't know this, but when Scholdice, the guy who was the rancher who's set up the Bowness community, he gave title to everybody along the river, and you had title right to the river. So you own the property to the high water mark of the river. So there's no city easement.
Yeah.
The city's been coveting that land ever since. Ever since Bowness was merged with the city back in the early 60s, the city's always wanted that land. They feel that it should be public land. They feel there should be bike paths and walking paths. And of course, those of us who've spent our lives working hard for the private property we own, we don't agree.
Right.
And so they decided they were going to have to build these berms. Once again, they were going to be given, provincial money for flood mitigation. And so they had this all planned out until one of the residents found out about it. They weren't going to tell anybody. And when we found out, they held a public meeting at the Bonus Community Center. I think they expected maybe 30 or 40 people to show up. 450 people showed up.
Wow.
450 people. And they didn't care. They kept bulldozing ahead. They kept saying that it was a good idea. Now, you have to understand, Bonus sits on one of the largest gravel eskers in the Bow Valley. It's just gravel underneath. My house is this much topsoil, and then it's rock. And the water always comes up from the ground up. It comes up through the gravel. So everybody's house along my block that floods has 4 feet of water in their basement before the river ever breaks the bank, right? Because it floods from the ground up. So what do you think is going to happen when they build big 8-foot-high berms in somebody's backyard and lets the river rise even higher on the other side?
It's just from underneath going to fill and create a little swimming pool.
But they wouldn't listen to us.
Yeah.
We had our own hydrologists try to explain to their people, hey, this is wrong science. They wouldn't listen to us. We had to form a non-profit society, raised over $150,000, hired a legal PR firm, and pushed back on them for 4 years.
Wow.
And the only reason it worked was because we had really strong, dedicated, and level-headed leadership. Because they goad you into wanting to get you angry at them. They goad you into wanting to make a mistake and threaten them in some way or get angry. Right?
Yeah.
They want you to do that. It allows them to shut down the process. And I remember getting a call because I posted some crazy thing in Facebook about the local councillor who I didn't have much respect for. And the CTV reporter called me up and said, Randy, can I get a comment on this berm situation from you? And I said, yeah, absolutely you can.
Yeah.
Here's the number for our leadership. And the guy, you could tell the reporter was going, oh.
He thought he had you.
He thought he had me, yeah. But after 4 years, we finally got them to shelve the project.
Amazing.
Wow.
And when was this?
This was, they shelved it, was about a year ago. And so, again, this after the 2013 flood, provincial flood mitigation money was being made available. So, of course, the city wants their cut, and they had to figure out a project, right, to be able to draw on the money.
Okay.
Our contention is that you need another dam, right? One more dam upstream will solve the entire problem. Fact of the matter is the dams were overfilled in both flood years, 2005 and 2013. So the province has been managing the dams ever since. They won't let TransAlta manage them in the May-June period. So, there are a lot of factors involved, but we just felt that the berms were a waste of taxpayers' money. They would be ineffective, wouldn't work for anybody, and it was just an excuse for them to expropriate the land.
Right.
Wow. Talk about communities sticking together.
There's 2 communities that are really like that, and I really love it. Bonus is one, where they're really passionate about the community, as they should be, and Inglewood's another.
Yeah, Inglewood's very passionate as well.
Yeah.
I think every community with good leadership has, they want to take care of their neighborhood.
But these are like one of the 2 almost oldest communities, so they want to keep their heritage, and it's a lot of, multi-generational or handed down. Like, this was my grandfather's place, and it's my father's place. Now it's my place.
There's a house 2 doors down from me that was a 3rd generation home.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So they don't want to see a lot of their nice views that they've enjoyed for 3 generations now going to be 3-story.
Right. But getting back to the story of real estate, the reason that I ended up in Bonus was because when I was young, I had a mentor. And he was a high school teacher who got into real estate and started off just by renovating little houses in the summertime, when he had his 2 months off.
Yeah.
And then he'd sell them off, make some money, and then move on to the next one. But one year, when Dalhousie was being built, he got some of his friends together and they purchased about a dozen homes in Dalhousie. They pre-purchased the homes.
Wow.
I think it was those New West Homes, I think was building it at that time.
Yeah.
And then some of the others crapped out and he ended up with 10 of them himself.
Wow.
And so he took a huge risk But what happened was he literally doubled his money the next year because they had all gone up in price.
Timing.
Wow.
You
It
got
was
lucky
good
on the
timing.
timing.
This is
Yeah.
back in the 70s, and he quit teaching and just went full time into real estate investing.
Because he bought a house at that time, 50 a house, and it went to 75 a house or 80 a house the next year.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so he was sort of my mentor. I left home at 16 and he let me move in with his family because I was always down helping him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My dad had died when I was young, when I was 12. I had 2 younger sisters and a mother. We lived in Varsity in like a 2-bedroom apartment. So any opportunity I got to get out of that apartment, and he said to the students, if you guys come down and work for me, I'll show you how to paint and do electrical and I'll pay you $1 an hour. A coffee break every hour.
Yeah.
Right?
$1 an hour.
$1 an hour. And the first thing he had me do, and he was the original, like, reuse, recycle. First thing he had me do was pull nails and straighten them and put them in a
Really?
can. Oh, yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like, we're talking hardcore here.
Yeah, that's
Like, he did not waste anything.
Yeah.
And he would never buy anything that he couldn't somehow scrounge elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to take old siding off of some of the old properties in Bonus, the old cedar siding.
Yeah.
Like real cedar.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really old stuff, but what he'd use it for is he'd cut it up and use it for molding to make his own windows.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Good gentleman.
Yeah.
And what about him now?
Oh, well, he passed away just before the flood in 2013. He was 80 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, I ended up with a second family out of the deal.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
But because of his mentorship, I learned about mortgages, about financing, about renovations. We jacked up houses. We got very, very competent at taking one of those little 800 square foot bungalows with no basements that are in Montgomery and Boness.
Yeah.
And we got really good at like jacking them up, putting in a basement, putting like a small addition. So we turned this 800 square foot bungalow with no basement into a 1,200 square foot bi-level.
Wow.
And we could do that in the space of about 3 months. And so for a while there, I could go around Boness and Montgomery and I could show you them.
Yeah.
And when we discovered the preserved wood basement, it was so perfect. Because before that, we were doing things like laying concrete blocks and building pony walls.
Yeah.
But once we discovered the PWF foundation, that changed the whole game. And because now you could pre-build all your basement walls.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need concrete. You didn't need to pour forms or anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just jack the house, drop the walls in, connect them, drop the house on it. It's perfect.
Well,
But he was hilarious because when he when I was he wanted me to go to university. I said, I don't want to go to university. I want to do real estate with you. He goes, no. You got to have a piece of paper.
yeah, you
need
gotta
a
have
piece of
something
paper.
to fall back on.
You got to have a degree. So I went, okay. But he says, but you're getting the student loan because you can get a big student loan. Because remember, I was still living in his house.
Right.
And so I said, okay, I'll apply for a student loan. And I got a pretty good sized student loan for back then. And I said, great, I'll go pay for my tuition and my books. He goes, no, you won't. You'll go buy a house. And so with my first student loan, when I was 19 years old, I bought a house.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I just bought a house in Montgomery. And again, it was 800 square foot bungalow, no basement. But the guy was a body man. Mm-hmm. And so the garage was a double garage, all drywalled and insulated with a furnace. Mm-hmm. So I slept in the garage. I rented out the 3 bedrooms to students, and I lived rent-free throughout university.
Amazing.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
What a story.
So that's the kind of stuff that we were doing back then, right?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we did back then, you can't get away with anymore,
Yeah.
right? Because I had to get a friend's father to qualify for the mortgage. Mm-hmm. And then we just scurried down to land titles, did a title switch,
Yep.
and I paid him $500. Mm-hmm. Well, that's mortgage fraud today.
Yeah.
But back in the 70s, nobody really cared about that. Yeah. And the banks didn't care either because first mortgages are still assumable in Alberta, but the banks have just made it extremely difficult to do that today.
Being phased out for sure.
Yeah, but back then it was common.
Oh yeah, you remember those 2-3 years where every deal was an assumable mortgage and everyone defaulted and stuff. And they made a movie because it happened in the States and trickled over here. They made that movie The Big Short.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's an amazing story. You'll know the schools I'll mention now. So, I came here, I grew up here, been here my whole life. We came here when I was 5, about to turn 6. So got here and started school right away, and we were bouncing around finding a community that my dad wanted to put his roots in. So we bounced like every year. So when I got here, I went to Alexander Ferguson one year, and then Colonel Sanders, another year, and then we settled in the Northwest, and we went to a brand new elementary, state of the art at the time, Simons Valley Elementary.
Right.
And it's shaped like a man. It was like the coolest. The bird's eye view of it is it's shaped like a man. So, 4 wings, and then the big belly was the gym, and then the head was like the library. We had like a 2-level library, and we had like the first computer lab in town. It was those colored Macs that you could kind of see through.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was cool. So we settled there and just bounced around Northwest since. So how about you? You mentioned your first property was in Bowness, but then you went to
Well, it was in
Hazelborough.
Montgomery. Right up on the hill, at the top of the hill, because it was close to the university.
Yeah.
Right? So it was easy to get students to rent out the rooms.
Yeah.
So all throughout my university career, I had roommates.
Awesome.
And that was sort of my first major project. And, and then I did that project, worked on another couple of things. But then, like all young guys, right, I wanted to, sow my wild oats and do my own thing. And so I kind of sold the house back to my mentor. And I went off and decided to go out on my own and ended up playing music for 7 years. I played music, just did a solo lounge act and played in bars and, lounges across Western Canada. Awesome. I did that for 7 years, yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, until I met my wife. And then I thought, maybe I should take life a little more seriously, quit partying so much and settle down.
They will do that.
I know.
They will do that to us.
Yeah, and we've been together for 40 years, so.
God bless you too. Yeah. That's an amazing story, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope to make it there. My wife's watching this one. Make it 40 years.
I get the brownie points. Yeah.
We're 8 years in.
But then, of course, when we got back together, and this is another great story. So one of the other folks that was one of my high school buddies that was also mentored by, our buddy, the high school teacher, he inherited a condo down on 12th Ave. It's just a fourplex, but it was condoized.
Yeah.
And he'd inherited when his dad died. And so I offered to go help him clean it. And the place was, was it bad? It was bad. And so we're cleaning it, and I'm up on a ladder and looking at him going, if you sold this to me, you wouldn't have to clean it. I clean it.
Yeah.
We got down off a ladder. He took out a sheet of paper. He wrote an agreement for sale and sold it to me right there. Oh, yeah. And so I was back in the real estate game, right, just while I was still a musician, because no down payment, right? He just carried the mortgage. Yeah. And, until I paid him out. But then I got a roommate, and I lived there for 3, 4, or 5 years. And then I met my wife, and she said, this place is too small. We need a house. And I said, well, go find a house. We'll buy it. She goes, buy it? How can we buy it? You make $20,000 a year as a musician. I said, yeah, but you make more. That's in your name. Yeah. And so our first house, right? Yeah. She was the owner of the house. And we bought this big old brick house in Bridgeland. And I said, why do you want a brick house? I don't know how to work on a brick house. I know how to work on a wood house. Yeah. Oh, no, you know what the ladies are like. This was what she wanted. And so I said, okay.
That's what she got.
let's buy this brick house. So then I did a reno on this brick house.
Learned a lot, I bet, on that one.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, I eventually got a real job. And I was in the transportation industry for 25 years. So I worked for international transportation companies. Primarily for one that was a big German corporation. We did customs clearance, warehousing, air freight, ocean freight, truck freight. Oh, yeah. Wow. If you want to know how to move a container full of running shoes from Taiwan to here, I'm your man. Yeah. So, I did that for many years, but always did real estate as the side hustle. Yeah. Always had real estate, always had a project on the go. Like I would come home, take the suit and tie off, change into the work clothes, head over to the project.
Amazing. Always had something.
Always had something on the go all those years. Back when I was a little younger and a little sprier.
Yeah, and back wasn't hurting as much.
Yeah, so over the years, we would just go from project to project, and that's how I ended up with the house on the river in Bowness, is because we were able to leverage these other properties and make profit on those and transfer the equity to eventually being able to build on the river.
Amazing. And you're there now. That's where you are.
Yeah, we'd like to, as long as we can still get up and down the stairs. Mm-hmm. We want to stay there as long as we can. It's such a beautiful property. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful area.
Bow Crescent, one came up today in Bow Crescent.
Did it?
Yeah, today.
I got to go check that out.
Have a look.
Because one just sold 2 doors down from me.
Yeah. Yeah, we did one a year ago there. But yeah, one came up, and everyone's going to fight for it. So it's, every builder, investor in town that can't find a lot right now, this is one where it can be a nice rental and flip, or make a really, really big house. So
yeah, because the houses down there are quite large. There's one fellow, I don't know if you know this guy, but he was a mailman. And he was a mailman in various parts of the city, but in Bowness. And I met him when he was doing, fairly smaller renovations. But by the time I met him after about the third year, he was doing quite large houses. And he did one in Hillhurst that was amazing. And he would source materials and lighting fixtures and things from all over Canada. He'd fly to Toronto. But if you go up the street on Bow Crescent, there are two huge houses, because he bought a lot and subdivided. He bought a 100-foot lot and subdivided it. And these houses are huge, and they've got like clear walkways on the second story, and just I can't describe it to you.
Finishes,
and I call him the wealthy mailman, right? Because he eventually retired. He was he made a ton of money in real estate, and he's a character. Yeah, there's some crazy people that are get into the real estate game.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's one of the most safest investments. I mean, the wealthiest people around always have one of their investment arms is real estate, right?
Well, I think the other thing that people love about real estate is it's tangible, right?
Yes. Right.
And this is what my mentor always used to say. He said, if I have a house, I can go and visualize how I can make money on that house. It's pretty hard to visualize how you're going to make money on a stock or a bond or a mutual fund. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I provide those services to people and I help people with retirement. But for people that like tangible, they can touch the thing, right? That's where houses really are. They have value beyond just their inherent value as a good investment. You can really do stuff with them, right?
Yeah, you can, like you said, you can be hands-on, increase value. You can split title. You can create a suite.
Exactly.
You can go downtown and put in a request to change the zoning, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, way before all of the densification and the legal suite issues. The last project I did was in 2007, and it was in Bowness, and we jacked up a house, put a basement under it, but we always had a separate entrance to the basement. We always had, we didn't necessarily have a separate furnace, but we would have a zone control so that the person in the basement could adjust the furnace and it wouldn't open the damper to the upstairs.
Right.
So it wasn't quite what the city had in mind now, but we had the whole place drywalled. We drywall around the furnace room, and it was mostly fireproofed. And so we kind of were already, and because we jack up the house, the windows are already 3 feet high, by 6 feet wide. So we didn't have egress issues.
Yeah.
And so we were all sort of ahead of our time when it came to creating a revenue property for the folks that were going to buy this house from us. Like my sister actually bought that house, and she rented out the basement she was there for like 10 years. And when she finally sold it, she made good money on it, and she bought it at the height of the market in 2007. But she still ended up making decent money when they moved out.
It's all time, right? I tell people all the time that want to get worried about what the market will do, what the market's doing, and afraid to get into real estate. Well, I always tell them the market's only going to affect you if you're selling in that market.
Yeah.
You're buying and, just enjoy it.
Well, same with the stock market. I tell people, I said, look, the only time a stock market crash is affecting you is when you have to sell at the bottom. That's all. Another year later, it'll be right back where it was before. So as long as you can ride out these cycles, whether it be economic cycles, because of course, being from Calgary, we know it's boom and bust with the oil patch. Like it's like almost every 5 to 10 years. There's this cycle, and you kind of get used to it, right? Yeah. And as long as you're able to ride out those cycles and not be stuck at the bottom of one where you need to, dispose of your assets, well, you're just in good shape. And I tell my students, the nice thing about real estate is it's a hedge against inflation. Right. Because real estate always edges ahead of inflation in value. If inflation's at about 3%, real estate will be about 4 or 5%. If inflation's around 2%, houses will probably be increasing at about 4%. And so it always stays ahead of inflation. It's the nature of the asset. Yes. So it's a good inflation hedge. And I love real estate.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, obviously we love it.
You know, obviously
Yes.
you guys
Yeah.
love it.
I just came from one of his, like you said, you always have a project on the go. He has a project on the go right now, and I was just there before I came here this afternoon because I was in the area at another appointment just to see it and see how it's going. And I was surprised, like, you see a property, you see a bungalow, you walk the main level, and you assume right away that the basement's kind of the same. But some properties will surprise you, like this one. You go downstairs, I'm like, how the heck is there 3 bedrooms, a living room, a full washroom, a kitchen down here, right? So that one's gonna be a quick sale on the market as soon as it's ready. I think a couple weeks from now.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that's a good find.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a property in Pembroke Meadows, southeast.
Yeah.
And no, it's fantastic. I mean, we've been doing it for I think 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah, and in areas like Pembroke and the southeast, you can still get reasonably priced real estate. I mean, it's it hasn't really gone up the way some others have. I have a client who bought a property there, and she's going to make about 150 grand, and she only bought it like a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That is the sweet spot for timing. If you bought a year and a half or prior, today you're looking at a good profit.
Absolutely,
Great profit.
Right? So it's all timing, right? I mean, I saw one that I had my eye on. Obviously, to keep confidentiality out there, I won't disclose the address, but I'll give you the details, right? So I had my eye on this property, and of course, good properties will go no matter what the market's saying. So this was about 3 years ago, right? And this property came on the market for just shy of $1 million, 999, and someone took it in a matter of hours for 965. It has a carriage suite, one of the only ones on the street, and it's in a very nice community. So 965, and this owner basically just lived there, rented the carriage suite, maybe put it on Airbnb because it's a legal suite, and put it on the market 3 weeks ago, and they got just shy of 1.5. And you look at the photos, they're identical from the original listing 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So bought a property 965, enjoyed living there, had a little help from the carriage suite, and 1.5 sale in a day.
Absolutely. These deals are available. You've got to really, you got to have your nose to the ground. You have to be experienced in the industry.
Right.
You have to know when to pull the trigger. There's a whole series of things you need to be able to do, or have good help with, or good support, good coaching. No, it's fantastic. I also tell people, I mean, because obviously I'm not a realtor, never been a realtor, and now I'm a financial advisor. So the other part of my course is showing people how they can get involved with real estate without owning it. Mm-hmm. And of course, that means things like real estate investment trusts, mutual fund trusts, private equity investments, those kinds of things. So you can even get involved with real estate, without ever having to actually be a landlord or go to own it. Right. And so I point out that, and the reason for that is it is such a great asset, and it's a good diversification asset. Mm-hmm. Right? Especially if you are involved with, some mutual funds or some stocks and bonds, and they're market based. Well, a great way to diversify is to get real estate, because it's not directly correlated to stock markets. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean it won't be affected by the economy, but it's not a direct correlation. So it's a good way to even out your portfolio. And in fact, if you look at the Canada Pension Plan, 30 years ago, the amount of private equity or real estate that they held in the pension was around 6%. Today, almost 50%.
Wow.
Whoa.
Almost 50%. Because that's what produces results. That's why the Canada Pension Plan is one of the best plans globally. Like, it is rock solid. When people come to say, "Oh, I'll never get a pension because, you old people will take it up." When I talk to 30-year-olds, I go, "No, you don't understand. This thing's going to last for the next 100 years, no problem." Mm-hmm. Like, the management is solid, right? People think the government manages it. No. There's a separate independent board that manages it.
The only government individual I would trust would be Mr. Harper, accountant. He left us in a surplus. They took him over to Europe to help them over there, and then of course we're in a deficit now.
Well, I have my bones to pick with all politicians, including Mr. Harper. Yeah. So, but I won't get into that right now.
No, that's fine. But I mean, but him compared to the others, I guess you can call it lesser of the evils, right?
I would agree with that for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, no, I think that real estate is always an asset that people should give consideration to. And again, I think the rich dad poor dad guys are completely wrong. I think they what's his face says that you shouldn't use your primary or think of your primary residence as an asset. You should think of it as a liability. Well, that's maybe in the U.S. that's a realistic way to look at it, but not here.
Yeah.
Not when it's a tax-free asset.
Yeah.
It's one of your best assets.
That's strictly just saying it in terms of the definition of asset and liability. He can only say that because it's something that's taking from your pocket, right? It's a liability because you have property taxes, you might have a mortgage, utilities.
Right?
But
it's only taking from your pocket if it's losing value. Right. But it's not losing value typically, right?
Right.
Well, not in Calgary anyway.
Yeah, you could argue that person and say, yes, I may pay $1,000 a month out of my pocket, but how much did it increase monthly if you look at the yearly increase in
and
its
how
value?
much would I have to pay to live elsewhere?
Right.
So, yeah, I don't buy that argument, generally speaking.
Yeah. No. What I wanted to ask you about, and of course, talk about what you can talk about, and let me know if you can't disclose certain information about investing and things like that. But one thing is, I've heard that there's so many different ways you can take advantage of having life insurance.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know much about it, right? I mean, of course, we all carry and we should carry life insurance in some capacity, but no one's ever talked to me or educated myself on what my options can be in regards to having life insurance.
Right.
And what you can do and how you can leverage life insurance. Is that something that's prominent here?
I don't think it's as well known as it should be. There's information out there. There are marketing schemes around it. Some guys that call themselves infinite banking, or bank on yourself, that's just a marketing scheme. It's just a marketing scheme for a product that's been around for 300 years, and so they've just slapped a name on it. I've seen some of those plans put together by certain fellows that were not put together properly because they didn't fully understand the product or the nature of the carrier they were using. But essentially, there are three kinds of life insurance. There's term life insurance, there's whole life insurance, and there's universal life insurance. And they're all different. They all have value. They're all good products in the right circumstances at the right place. They're brilliant. They provide protection, obviously, right? They're a risk management tool for a financial plan. And the risk management is what happens if somebody important in that family or that business passes away. How do you make the plan whole if you're losing, a source of income, a key leader, whatever the case may be? That's what insurance is for. But term insurance is meant to be temporary, right? They fix the price for a period of time with a guaranteed amount of benefit. And at the end of that period of time, what happens is they renew it automatically. But you got to remember the cost of insurance is an exponential curve. So, and it doesn't matter what insurance you buy. The curve remains the same. Shiraz, the curve for you will be calculated. All the actuaries have figured it out. Every single company. They'll be within $1 of each other per month to insure you. Because they've already figured it out. Unless they don't really want your business, in which case they jack the rate a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's how they compete with each other. Okay? Same with Sebastian. Same with me. Now mine would be way more expensive because I'm way older. So if you're young, it's cheap. If you're old, it's more expensive. If you're a smoker, it's more expensive. If you don't smoke, it's cheaper. If you're healthy, it's way cheaper. If you're unhealthy, it's way more expensive. But wherever that curve starts, it's an exponential curve to age 100. So when you think of a term insurance policy, it's only taking a section of that curve, let's say the first 10 years of it. When it renews, it's paying for the next 10 years of the curve. If it renews a second time, it's paying for the next 10 years of the curve. And that gets brutally expensive. So term insurance generally gets canceled after maybe a renewal or two. Okay? But if you're still healthy, generally speaking, insurance rates have dropped over the last 40 years. For obvious reasons. It's because we keep living longer. And the cost of insurance is based on mortality tables, right? That's how the actuaries figure it out.
Makes sense.
Right? So I've talked to clients who are 10 years into a 20-year term, and I can show them, hey, you can get a 20-year term now for a few dollars more than you're paying now, depending on their age and everything else. And so term insurance is very useful. It's very inexpensive, very easy to use, but has no equity. Doesn't accumulate any cash values. It's like renting. You're just renting a death benefit. Right? Okay. So that's term insurance. And by the way, those premiums you're paying for that insurance, the insurance companies make zero profit on that. They try to make zero profit. They just want to collect enough money from all the Shirazes, all the Sebastians, and all the Randys so that they have enough money to cover the statistical amount of deaths they're going to have to pay out on claims. That's all. Not trying to make any profit.
How come?
Because that's how they compete with each other. They hire the best actuaries. They try to do the best calculations.
Yes.
Figure out, that's why any given month and I'm a broker, so I have contracts with all the insurance companies. So any given month might be Equitable, might be Empire, could be Manulife, would be the cheapest. Because if all you're looking for is the cheapest insurer, we get the cheapest insurer. Now, whole life is different because it's got to last your whole life, right? You got to pay for the whole curve.
Okay.
Right? So guess what? The payments are way higher. So when the curve starts down here, you're paying way up here. But that excess payment that you pay, it doesn't disappear. It goes into what's called a cash value account inside of the contract. Right? So now you've got a guaranteed amount of insurance. You've got a guaranteed cost of insurance, never to change. You've got a guaranteed amount you pay every month, every year. By the way, you pay annually, you cost you less.
Okay.
Pay annually, cost you less, about 8% less. So now you've got these, you've got this excess cash, you've got a set premium, all of that's guaranteed, right? And that cash value is going to grow. And it's actually, the actuaries determine it exactly. It's written right into the contract. In the 10th year, you'll have $8,000 of cash. In the 11th year, you'll have $9,500 of cash. In the 12th year, you'll have $10,000. It just keeps accumulating. It's the overpayment of premium to cover the liability. Okay?
Got it.
But there's a version of that product called participating whole life. Now, how do you think the life insurance companies make money if they're not making money on these premiums? How do you think they make money?
They loan out your equity in the plan?
You got it. They're collecting these huge pools of money, right? Huge pools of money. Well, they go invest it.
Okay.
They invest in stocks, bonds, real estate. That's why you see a building with Sun Life on it.
Right.
They own the building.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Makes
They're
sense.
the biggest investment companies in the world, and that's why they manage pension plans, because they're very good at it. And the regulators make them be pretty conservative. If you look at these portfolios, they're 50% like bonds and municipal bonds and money market funds, because the regulators want to make sure that they keep enough money so they can always fund the claims. Because life insurance claims, 98.5% get paid out. It's not like auto insurance or house insurance where the adjuster's trying to, they just pay. It's not like those other insurances. They don't ask questions. After the second year.
There's a few stories, like one was 2 days ago, right? One of the saddest parts, if not the saddest part about real estate is having to, deal with this when you're dealing with estate sales and things like that. But what's happening a lot right now is landlords want to capitalize on the market, and they're giving all their tenants the boot, right? There's 90 days, you're out, and these poor families, these poor tenants that have been there 4 years, 6 years. There's a tenant that was there 22 years, paid off someone's house, and now is like, where do I go? And finding out that this grandfather $900 a month is going to be $2,500 a month for you now, right? So there's a woman, and her husband passed away, and she said, and of course he had life insurance her whole life, and then it lapsed for like 2 or 3 months, and he passed away during those 2 or 3 months. She got nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they even give you 30 days grace. Mm-hmm. The insurance companies aren't stupid, right? They're not going to
But what are the odds?
If you miss your payment, they say, okay, we understand. We'll give you 30 days, right, to catch up, and then you can reinstate. You can reinstate an insurance policy, by the way. Given that the annuitant, the insured, is still alive, up to 2 years after. Right.
But in this case, just
so even if you can't make the
timing,
payments,
right?
it was just bad timing. That's bad timing.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, right? That's
Yeah.
very unfortunate.
Yeah, I was just thinking like the business they're in, since it's life insurance, and it's like this is not someone that's maliciously trying to not pay. They've been paying for 15 years and they
But
missed
again-
for 4 months.
Yeah, but again, that was term life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You see, with the whole life policy, particularly the participating policy, because what you're participating is in the profits of the company, and they pay a dividend every year. So on top of this cash value that's accumulating, you get this dividend. That's the investment portion. And the dividend goes into the cash value account. Now, life insurance contracts, no tax deferred.
Oh,
So as all the money grows inside the policy, you don't pay any tax on it,
Nice.
right? So it's like an RSP that way.
Right.
It grows and grows, you don't pay any tax. You only ever pay tax if you take it out.
Right.
So you're growing this asset. It's fantastic. If they had this type of policy, what the insurance company will do, if you can't make the payment, they draw the payment from the cash value.
Nice.
And it survives no matter what.
Right.
In fact, with these types of policies, by about the 16th, 17th year or so, you can just put these on holiday and they just self-fund using the dividend. You don't ever have to make another payment.
That's so unfortunate,
Yeah.
the lack of more common and public knowledge about this.
Yeah.
Because this was sad. I have to list this place, I have to sell this place, and this woman had her husband pass away and 4 kids, and she's on her own. And now she has to find a
4
new
kids
place.
passed away?
No, her husband passed away. It's her and 4 kids.
Okay.
Well, remember I told you my dad died when I was 12 and I had 2 younger sisters. My mom was high school educated. She was a housewife.
Yeah.
We struggled. There's
Yeah.
no life insurance. I come by this business, with a memory of my mother weeping at the kitchen table
course,
thinking we
yeah.
might have to go on welfare.
Yeah.
And I was 12 years old. I didn't really care. I went, don't worry,
Don't
Mom.
even know what it means.
Trying to comfort her. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry, Mom. I don't care if we ever go. Who cares?
Yeah.
But I didn't understand the stigma of it, right? And but she eventually got a job and everything worked out well. But I think it's so important to protect against these risks. Self-employed people, why don't they have disability insurance?
Right.
I mean, if you're the sole source of your income, or your efforts in your work, well, what do you do if you get injured and you can't work? Where does the money come from? I mean, for professionals, I think it's absolutely 100% important that they have disability insurance. Lawyers, doctors, dentists, and many of them do.
Right.
And there are group plans, of course, that have these these coverages. But for entrepreneurs, they often forget about it, especially because entrepreneurs are really positive people. Because to be an entrepreneur, you got to be positive.
Yeah.
So they don't want to think about negative things, right? They don't, and they talk to me like, "Oh, Randy, you're a glass half full guy." I'm going, "No, I'm not a glass half full guy. I'm the guy when you drop the glass and it shatters all over the concrete floor. I'm the guy that picks it all back up for you."
Yeah.
Right?
I'm your safety net.
Exactly.
So why I wanted to ask this question about life insurance specifically, and thank you so much for diving into it. I learned a lot from this conversation already, and I look forward to, off air getting a little one-on-one with you time. But why is it that a few of these, not schemes, or you're saying there's these like marketing ploys and you're seeing some advertisements
for the
about
infinite banking.
and about like getting life insurance, and it can make you rich. You can buy a house from with your
borrow
using your
against
life
it.
insurance policy,
Well,
right?
that's fine. I mean, sure, it's an asset like anything else. Anything that accumulates value and has an investment component is an asset. So permanent life insurance is an asset. So let's say a company, a corporation, you're incorporated and the corporation buys a policy on the owner, right, to protect the corporation. Well, that's a corporate asset now. That sits on the asset side of the ledger. And at some point in the future, if you've built up enough cash value, I've got a doctor, for instance, who's putting away about $50,000 a year into a participating whole life policy.
Oh.
And you can prepay them. So you can prepay them you don't have to pay for life. You can prepay them in 20 years. There are 10-year pays. Desjardins has a 5-pay. You can literally pay up the entire policy in 5 years. Now, she's doing a 20-pay because when she started, she was in her early 40s. So, when she's 62, it'll be paid up. She'll have about $1.5 million of cash value in there. She'll have about $3.5 million worth of life insurance because we set these up so they increase the amount of life insurance every year. The dividend is used to buy a little bit more life insurance because the dividend is based on how much life insurance you have. And it's one of the options that the insurance companies give you. You can buy a little more insurance and ladder it up and make it a compound situation. But, you know, people say to me, well, then you got to take the money out and pay tax. And I go, no, you don't understand. It's a corporate asset. What do banks lend against? They lend against corporate assets. And they consider a paid up par policy like gold. It's like gold. The bank will lend you up to 90% of the cash value. She'll get a line of credit for $1.2 million from her banker.
Incredible.
Now they become, with a letter of assignment, the first beneficiary. That's why they know they're going to get paid, right? They know they're going to get paid. 30 days after the demise of the annuitant, the bank will get the check in the mail outside of probate. It doesn't even have to go through the estate. That's the beauty of life insurance. It bypasses probate, right? As long as there's a named beneficiary. So it's beautiful. And she could probably produce a $70,000 to $80,000 a year income for 20 years and pay no tax on it because it's a loan.
Amazing.
Right?
There it is. Now I see what.
Now you're getting it, right?
Now I'm getting it.
There you go.
Thank you so much. It was
bet.
really informative. Do you have any questions for Randy? That was my question. He answered them all.
Actually did cover my questions as well.
Well, yeah, and the cool thing is for you guys, if you had an incorporated real estate company, you had the insurance policy in there, you could borrow against the policy to buy a property. You could write off the interest on the borrowed loan to buy the property. You could also write off the cost of insurance, right? Because it was used to leverage a loan corporately. You do it. You can't do it personally, but you do it corporately.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of fun things you can do.
Amazing.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to learn more about that off air, folks, with Randy. Can't give you all the secrets. Reach out to Randy, definitely. How can the viewers out there that are intrigued about this and want to learn more, of course, available, Google this 8-step dream business plan. You can obviously buy the book on Amazon. And where can folks reach out to you? Do you have a website?
I think probably the most, for me, the social media-wise, LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is there. My contact information is there. Okay. So, you know, I get lots of scam calls because my phone number and my email address
there for public
on the internet. But that's the easiest way. You can either message me on LinkedIn. You can use my phone number to text me. You can email me.
Amazing. So it's Randy McCord, McCord. And of course, I was really excited to find out you're the author of this book, and I will definitely read this in the coming days.
Where can we find a copy of the book? Is it on Amazon?
Yeah, it's just on Amazon. I mean, I just get the Kindle version. It's like $7.50 or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's a quick read. It's not too heavy.
Digestible. Yes.
Exactly. It's digestible.
Oh, that's amazing. You sure you don't have any other questions?
No, you actually asked every question I wanted to ask.
Don't say that. You have to have a question. Well, no. I'll quickly. We didn't finish. Like, I just want to say, because you're from Calgary and, like, you know, I'm Northwest kid my whole life, right? Where we settled, and it's always been Northwest. So, you know, I was sad to see, like, Montgomery, because, like, showing my wife around town, she's not from around town, and I wanted to say, she saw this is my elementary, these are the areas I grew up in, and then I'm like, where's my junior high? And then I had to Google and find out Montgomery Junior High doesn't exist anymore. And, I was just wondering, like, why that is. I mean, I guess, are we struggling to fill the schools with students? I'm just not sure.
It was a pretty old school.
Yeah, it was.
You know, they have a life cycle, right? You can't just keep renovating old schools. It's like the Chinook Learning Center used to be on that school. What was it called? On Crowchild Trail.
Yeah, right on the right-hand side. Going south on Crowchild.
Yeah.
Chinook College or something?
Well, it was Chinook Learning Center. That's where I teach the course.
But it was something else before. Viscount Bennett.
Viscount Bennett, yeah. And it was a slum. And that place was, and, you know, it just wasn't worth repairing anything. So, I mean, the whole school moved to Lord Shaughnessy, the vocational high school, just south of Central Memorial. And it's a nice new school. It's beautiful, bright and shiny. And it's... even real estate doesn't last forever. You know?
Yeah, you got to redo it, renew it, renovate it, or tear it down and build something new, right? Yeah. And with this new blanket rezone, later this month, we'll see what that entails. Trying to combat the average, 70 people still coming here every day?
It's a tough problem. But I want to address that one thing you said about there are things I think the government could do very quickly and very obviously to solve this problem of ever-increasing rents. One of the things they could do is many landlords have already paid off their mortgage, right? Especially if somebody's a 22-year renter, right? They probably already paid off their mortgage or have very little left. Their costs are covered by the $1,800 rent. They don't need the $3,200 rent. Well, what government could quickly do is to say to landlords, because you can easily calculate an average rent per square foot for an area, right? You could say to landlords, look, landlord, Mr. Landlord, we'll give you a tax credit if you don't raise your rent, right, to the maximum amount. We'll give you a threshold, and anything less than that, we'll give you a tax credit. So instead of paying taxes on their $1,800, they may only pay taxes on $800. Right?
Yes.
And it helps their tenant.
That helps the tenant.
Struggling,
And if they're
Doesn't harm the landlord.
And if they're
in fact, gives the landlord an incentive to do
And the
this.
only person that will be making less money is the government. So what are the chances they're going to do this? And by the way, this is brought up to me by a client who has been in the real estate game herself. She's been in commercial property management for years, but has her own rental. She's the one who bought the house in Pembroke Meadows.
Okay.
And made a good killing on it.
Nice.
And
timing.
And she's the one who brought it up to me, and I thought that's a brilliant idea.
It is.
It's a brilliant idea.
But like you
just
said it at the end,
politicians.
if they're not going to make a profit, would they implement it?
But I think there are lots of creative solutions that just aren't being considered.
Yeah, it's sad. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But we are at an exciting time here in town at the YYC in Calgary. I mean, it was a record year last year, and they say we're on pace to beat the record year of last year. So, we look at the market every week, and it just keeps climbing. The benchmark prices keep climbing.
We're this close to $600,000 for benchmark average price throughout all properties.
Yeah.
Guess I should have waited to sell my rental.
When did you sell it?
January.
Of this year?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, actually, the deal came through in early March with a June 5th possession.
But still a great time to sell it if you're ever
definitely.
looking to sell. I mean, don't get fixated on I could have got 10 more, 15
Oh,
more.
and I tell my clients that all the time. When it's if market conditions are good, if it's time to pull the trigger, you pull the trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have waited 2 years and potentially got $100,000 less.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Don't be short-sighted, right?
Yeah.
Like and don't have that. There's always the seller's remorse and the buyer's remorse, right?
Yeah.
That's just human nature.
One of our
right?
previous guests talked about her flip property, and she said if I would have just held the property and not done any renovations, it would have, just by the increase in equity throughout the year and a half, she would have made the same amount of money with no work, right? So it's impossible to time.
That's what would have happened to me in 2007.
Yeah.
I would have probably made virtually the same amount of profit without having to do the big jack-up basement, the whole thing, right? But it's always a fun thing to do, you know? It always kept me busy, kept me out of trouble, you know?
Yeah. But if you're always in the market, it's impossible to have bad timing, right? So
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again for coming on, Randy. We really appreciated all the information. This was a great conversation. I look forward to having you on again in part 2, and maybe we'll look into what the summer market looks like and have you on again and kind of get an update on things, and then we can talk more about, because then I'll have read this by then. Of course, like you said, quick read.
Yeah, and of course, if you've got some new buyers who are still sort of dipping their toe in the market, my course is actually a beginner's course. It's very good for those who are just getting into the market. I give them a lot of sort of the basics we've talked about, and again, I think even Brennan's going to be guest speaker and talk about wholesaling.
Amazing.
Oh, great.
Yeah, amazing. So the 8-Step Dream Business Plan, find this on Amazon and Google, and find on LinkedIn Randy McCord, MCCORD. Of course, we'll have all this stuff in the links and descriptions below to our videos. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Shiraz,
thank you.
Sebastian.
Thank you,
I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Till next week.